This system doesn't clap when you finish. It doesn't care about wins, likes, or praise. It doesn't run on serotonin. It runs on structure. It runs on looped execution, no matter how you feel. And once you step inside it, you don't leave the same. It all starts with Part 1. Part 1, the zero-state protocol. You've been told your mind needs fuel, motivation, energy, clarity, that once you feel better, you'll finally move. They lied. Because there's a point where nothing inside you responds. You're not lazy, you're not broken, you're just done. No emotion, no spark, no fire, just stillness. And the weight of everything you should be doing. Most people collapse here. This is where we begin. The zero-state protocol wasn't built for high achievers. It was built for collapse, for numbness, for minds that are running on nothing, but still need to operate at full force. It doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't ask how you slept. It doesn't reward you for trying. Because this isn't therapy. It's not self-help. It's not a quote to pin to your wall. This is an internal operating system, one that runs without emotion, one that activates under pressure, one that turns hesitation into function, automatically. And once it's installed, you don't need motivation again. You don't need to feel anything at all. You just execute. This is the zero-state protocol. Let's walk through the steps to weaponize this. Installation. Step 1. Deactivate the civilian mind. The first step isn't motivation, it's mental deletion. You've been trained to think like a civilian, to seek comfort before action, to wait for clarity before commitment, to ask for permission from your own emotions. This is the programming of the domesticated mind. If I don't feel like it, I don't have to. If I'm tired, I'll rest. If I'm not ready, I'll wait. This thinking is poison to performance. It turns every decision into a debate. It multiplies hesitation. It gives emotion the power to override command. That version of you must be deleted. You don't comfort that voice. You don't give it space. You don't argue with it. You kill it. Because that's the first law of high-functioning execution. Emotion is not the operator. Command is. From now on, you begin each day with a mental override sequence. You wake up and say flatly, without energy or hype, I am not tired, I am not overwhelmed, I am not emotional, I am executable. Not once, but until something shifts, until the whiny voice inside goes quiet, until the part of you waiting to feel good realizes it's been replaced. This isn't positive thinking, it's reprogramming. You're not here to think your way into action, you're here to act your way into clarity. And if thoughts come, let them. But treat them like traffic noise, background static, passing signals from an obsolete system. They are not orders, they are not sacred, they are irrelevant. Because now, you are not your thoughts, you are not your feelings, you are not your hesitation. You are a system, a function, an executor of tasks. This is the death of the civilian mindset and the birth of the cold operator. Now, and from this point forward, you are no longer here to think, you are here to act. Step 2, micro-command initiation. You never start with finish the project. That's too vague, too overwhelming, too human. Because the human brain, especially one in emotional shutdown, doesn't respond to complexity. It stalls, it spirals, it procrastinates. That's why civilians fail. They approach execution like it's a movie montage. They think in grand outcomes, write the book, build the brand, fix my life. But systems don't operate on drama, they operate on micro-inputs. So from now on, your goal is not completion. Your goal is initiation. Here's how you start. Strip the task down to its first executable atom, the smallest action that requires zero thought and zero emotion. Not a goal, not a step, just the next command. Open the file, turn on the light, stand up, sit down and breathe. Put your fingers on the keyboard, press record. Type the first word, walk to the door, that's it. This is called micro-command initiation, and it is the ignition switch for your entire nervous system. The second the command is clear, you act within 5 seconds. No debate, no pause, no mental warm-up. Why 5 seconds? Because the moment your brain senses a gap between command and action, it floods the system with doubt, excuses, narratives, self-sabotage. But when you act instantly, you bypass the emotional firewall. You prove, again and again, that movement doesn't require agreement. It only requires instruction. And every time you obey the micro-command without emotion, you strengthen the obedience loop. The brain learns, I don't need to feel ready, I just need to move. You are now building neural automation, from fragile identity to programmed function, from burnout to clean execution. You're not finishing the race, you're just taking the first silent step. And that first step, when repeated under stress, becomes the trigger for everything else. It's not magic, it's mechanical dominance. Start small, start cold, but always start. Step 3. Detach from results. This is where most people fail. They treat small wins like victories. They stop to celebrate effort. They chase the high of, I did something. That's not performance. That's civilian conditioning. It's the loop they taught you in school. Complete a task, get a gold star, try your best, earn a pat on the back. But here, there are no stars, no praise, no applause, no serotonin spikes. Because you're not here for the high, you're here for the output. That's the shift. You're not performing because you're motivated. You're performing because you're now the type of person who obeys the protocol. You follow the code, regardless of emotional outcome. So when the action is complete, don't pause, don't react, don't indulge. You don't say, look at me, I did it. You say, flatly, coldly, that was expected, what's next? That phrase is critical. It resets the execution loop. It trains your nervous system that output is normal, not worthy of reward. This is how you hardwire identity over emotion. The more often you perform without expecting to feel anything, the more dangerous you become. Why? Because now your effort isn't driven by pleasure. It's driven by protocol. You've erased the feedback loop. You've removed the need to be seen. You've shut down the addict that wants a dopamine hit every time you finish something. Instead, you build quiet consistency, brutal reliability, obsessive internal standards. That's not just discipline, that's identity reprogramming. So here's your new formula. Command, execute, reset. No pride, no story, no break, just the loop. The reward is no longer the feeling. The reward is the ability to keep going without it. That's how operators are built. That's how you outperform the world, while everyone else is still checking how they feel. Step 4. Loop it until you forget you're tired. This system is not a one-time fix. It's not a switch you flip and walk away from. It's a loop, and you don't run it once. You run it until everything else disappears, until your sense of time collapses, until your feelings dull into silence, until the pain, the resistance, the boredom, the doubt don't go away. They just stop mattering. That's when you know you've entered the protocol zone. At this stage, your goal is no longer finishing the task. Your goal is looping commands until your identity rewires itself. Over and over, micro-command, action, reset, micro-command, action, reset, micro-command, action, reset. No thoughts, no breaks, no mental commentary. You don't reflect, you don't analyze, you just continue. This is the part that breaks most people because their nervous system is addicted to variation, stimulation, feedback. But that's the cost of transformation. You don't get to change while being entertained. You change by becoming boringly unstoppable. You change by repeating the same loop until your brain gives up the fight and the machine takes over. And that machine version of you, it doesn't complain. It doesn't hesitate. It doesn't need to be convinced. It just runs. You'll know it's working when you start moving without telling yourself to. You realize an hour has passed without distraction. You finish something and don't remember starting it. You stop caring that you're tired because you're moving anyway. That's not flow state. That's not motivation. That's identity override. That's when the emotions that used to hold you hostage, fatigue, dread, apathy, overthinking, are still there. But now they're irrelevant. You're no longer trying to fix how you feel. You're too deep in the loop to even notice. That's the moment you forget you're tired. Not because the pain is gone, but because you no longer care. Before we continue, there's something hidden I need to show you. It's called the Whisper Power Bundle. Inside are secret ebooks and audiobooks, dark knowledge I couldn't speak out loud, methods built for minds like yours, the ones who refuse to stay average. And here's the real part. Once you download it, you'll get lifetime access to every future release I create. No noise, no fluff, just raw mental weaponry, delivered straight into your hands forever. If this video is hitting something deep, that bundle is your next step. Link is in the pinned comment. Open it, and don't tell the others what you find inside. Step 5. kill the need for readiness forever. Here's the final truth. You will never be ready. You will never feel fully aligned. You will never arrive at the perfect mental state. Waiting is the addiction. Just one more hour. Just one more break. Let me feel better first. That's the trap. And it keeps people average forever, because the average person spends more time waiting to feel ready than they do moving while unready. But you're not average anymore. The zero-state protocol doesn't care about readiness. It doesn't require healing. It doesn't ask if you slept well or if your past is resolved. It only asks one question: can you execute in darkness? Because that's the final test of mental evolution. To move without momentum, to act without incentive, to obey the command even when your mind is silent, your chest is empty, and your soul is tired. This isn't about fixing yourself. This is about replacing the need to be fixed. This is where transformation happens, not by becoming stronger, but by making your weakness irrelevant. You are no longer a servant of motivation. You are no longer ruled by inspiration. Those are luxuries. You are function. You are system. You execute from zero, from nothing, from numbness, from cold, thoughtless stillness. That's the level where the world can't touch you, because when the system collapses, the lights go out, the chaos spikes. Everyone else freezes. You don't, because you don't move from energy anymore. You move from code. That's what makes you unstoppable. Not your strength, not your confidence, but your ability to move when everything inside you has disappeared. That's not performance. That's dominance. Part 2. Turning action into obsession. You learned how to move without motivation. You learned how to execute, even when your mind was screaming, "Stop!" That was survival. But this is the evolution. Welcome to part 2 of the zero-state protocol. This is where we go beyond function, into something darker, something obsessive, something permanent. Here's what they don't tell you. Starting isn't power. Escaping is weakness. Anyone can start. Starting is cheap. You can start every day and still end up nowhere because there's always a way out. You start, then stall. You start, then get distracted. You start, then talk yourself down. This isn't discipline failure. This is escape conditioning. You've been trained to keep a mental backdoor open at all times. A just-in-case window. If it gets too hard, I'll stop. If I'm not ready, I'll quit. If I fail, I'll pretend I didn't care. But obsession cannot grow in rooms with open doors. It needs isolation. It needs claustrophobia. It needs the psychological reality that the only direction is forward. From now on, when you commit to a task, you don't just start, you remove the exit. You burn the bridge behind you. That means you delete the app that breaks your focus. You publicly declare the deadline. You put money down on failure. You block the fallback option that comforts your weakness. You remove the safety net that lets you restart later. You lock the cage from the inside. Because once your system understands there's no way out, a new layer of obsession is born. A hunger to finish, a cold compulsion to complete, a fire that doesn't come from excitement, but from necessity. This isn't motivation. This is neural entrapment. And it's how the most dangerous minds in the world complete massive, ruthless missions. From this point forward, you act as if there is no plan B. No one is coming. Failure is public. The clock is ticking. The task is non-negotiable. And the cost of quitting is your own respect. You remove your ability to turn around, and something inside you shifts forever. Obsession doesn't live where there's escape. It lives where there's only one direction: forward. You want to evolve? Burn the exit, then see what version of you survives the fire. Step 2. Obsessive reflection loop. The average person finishes a task and walks away. No awareness, no review, no refinement. They completed it, so they're satisfied. That's why they stay average. But if you're here, you're not building satisfaction. You're building obsession. And obsession doesn't stop at done. It doesn't celebrate after completion. It reflects relentlessly, ruthlessly, repeatedly. Here's how. After every action, you ask one cold question: how can I do that faster, colder, cleaner? Faster equals sign more efficient. Colder equals sign less emotional drag. Cleaner equals sign fewer distractions, tighter precision. This isn't about being better than someone else. This isn't about beating your past self. This is about becoming obsessively tuned to your own performance structure. You're building a loop that analyzes output not to judge, but to sharpen. The goal here isn't pride, it's evolution. Because when you review each action with this detached surgical eye, you send a signal to your brain. This isn't a one-time event, this is my operating system. And your brain adapts. It starts prioritizing fluid motion. It starts eliminating friction automatically. It starts craving precision instead of praise. And here's what's deeper. This process rewires your reward system. You stop seeking validation. You stop caring about approval. You stop needing an outcome to feel complete. Instead, you become addicted to improvement itself. Not for applause, but because the act of becoming more lethal feels better than finishing. That's the shift. You're no longer performing for outcomes. You're performing to perfect the process. And once that loop embeds into your identity, it doesn't shut off. It keeps whispering after every action, faster, colder, cleaner. That's not anxiety, that's not pressure, that's obsession. And it's the engine that makes you execute beyond what emotion ever could. Step 3. Anchor obsession into identity. There's a massive difference between discipline and identity. Discipline is something you apply. Identity is something you are. Most people spend their lives saying, I'm trying to be more focused. I'm working on being disciplined. I want to become consistent. That language is weakness. It's a psychological stall, a quiet excuse disguised as self-improvement. Because if you're trying, you're still leaving room for failure to feel normal. But you're done trying. That version of you, the one who negotiates with habits, who checks in with their feelings, who looks for hacks to stay consistent. That identity is over. You are no longer a struggler. You are no longer a work in progress. You are no longer someone hoping to become something else. From this moment forward, you are the weapon, not the one learning how to use it, the one who is it. And that shift begins with what you tell yourself, not once, but every time your old programming tries to take over. You say this, flat, emotionless, like internal code. This is who I am now. Execution is what I do. Obsession is my new home. Say it when you wake up. Say it when you hesitate. Say it when you're exhausted, doubting, fading. Say it in the mirror when your mind tries to pull you back into softness. Why? Because the nervous system listens. Repetition is recognition. And repetition with conviction becomes rewiring. You are not installing a routine anymore. You are mutating your identity. Obsession is no longer a phase. It's no longer a tactic. It's no longer a switch you flip when things feel right. It's your baseline. It's your gravity. It's your blood. This isn't some external system anymore. It's your nervous system now. Repeat it until the part of you that doubts it dies. And when that part is gone, you don't need to fake discipline anymore, because who you are is the loop. Step 4. Erase variety. Multiply reps. Your mind is addicted to novelty. It craves change, new apps, new hacks, new habits, anything to avoid facing the same path twice. Why? Because repetition feels boring, and boredom is uncomfortable, and discomfort is where the real transformation hides. But here's what no one tells you. Novelty is the enemy of identity. Every time you switch strategies, every time you chase a new system, every time you tweak the process to feel fresh, you reset your brain's learning curve. You sabotage your own neural momentum. Because obsession doesn't feed on novelty. It feeds on loops. You want to wire obsession? Pick one system. Pick one structure. Pick one time. And repeat it mercilessly. You run the same task at the same hour, under the same conditions, in the same mental state, until your brain stops questioning and starts craving it. That's not routine. That's ritual. You're not doing this for the result. You're doing it for the neural dominance that repetition creates. Because here's the truth. Ritual kills resistance. Repetition kills uncertainty. Rehearsal kills hesitation. That's how execution becomes instinct, and how instinct over time becomes fixation. You're not showing up to stay consistent. You're showing up to let your nervous system memorize a performance identity so deeply that it activates even when you're half-conscious. This is how elite minds create obsession, not with motivation, but with rhythm. The world keeps asking you for new tricks, but you don't need new tricks. You need one powerful system. Run daily, without fail, without excuse, until it becomes a compulsive signature of your identity, not just something you do, something you are. Step 5. Kill the observer. This is the final layer, the last fracture that separates you from complete immersion. It's not mental, It's not physical. It's internal surveillance. There's still a part of you standing in the background, watching, judging, analyzing, second-guessing, narrating, that voice that whispers, "Am I doing this right? What does this mean? Will this be good enough? Who's noticing?" That's not awareness. That's ego. It's the leftover civilian inside your system, still performing for an imaginary audience, still hoping to be seen, still seeking permission, even in silence. That version of you must die. From now on, you no longer watch yourself work. You no longer track every movement like a performer under pressure. You don't check metrics. You don't count repetitions. You don't calculate impact in real time. You enter the loop, fully, silently, ritually, without narration, without commentary, without the need to know what it means. Because obsession isn't reflective. Obsession doesn't speak. It consumes. It dissolves thought. It replaces presence with precision. And when it takes over the operator, you're no longer the one doing the task. You become the task. The line between you and the work erases. There's no one watching the performance, because the performance is all that exists. This is not mindfulness, it's mind erasure. You don't float above your actions, analyzing your movement like some enlightened observer. You sink inside the loop until identity dissolves. You don't watch yourself moving. You disappear into the movement, and that's when you've crossed over. You've stopped running the algorithm. You've become it. The zero-state protocol isn't about doing hard things. It's about becoming someone who does hard things, automatically. No feeling, no hype, no identity crisis. Just one command. What is the task? Give it to me. I'll finish it, then ask for more. Part 3. Emotionless precision. Most people stop here. They think obsession is the final form, that loving the process is the goal. It's not. Obsession still needs desire, and desire is vulnerable. The final phase of the zero-state protocol doesn't run on desire. It runs on nothing. Welcome to the last evolution, emotionless precision. This is where your nervous system is no longer the operator. You are. Step 1. Recognize the signal interference. Every day, your nervous system is hijacking your output. It does it subtly. The tension in your chest before you start, the knot in your stomach when you fail, the craving for comfort after you succeed. These are not flaws. They are data. But you don't need to feel them. You only need to observe them. When the signal comes, pause. Say internally, noted, not needed, ignored. From this moment forward, emotions are not instructions. They are static, background noise, glitches in the system. You're not deleting your nervous system. You're detaching from it. Step 2. Operate on logic, not identity. Identity is an emotional loop. It's filled with questions. What if I fail? Who am I becoming? What will they think? Precision doesn't ask these questions. Precision doesn't care who you are. It only cares about the math. What is the task? What is the system? What is the next step? You're no longer trying to become something. You're here to execute instructions. This removes pressure. This removes ego. This removes everything that slows movement down. Step 3. Activate non-reactive mode. You must now train yourself to perform at neutral. No matter what happens, you don't escalate. You don't respond. You don't absorb. You failed, reset, repeat. You succeeded, reset, repeat. You're exhausted, reset, repeat. You're doubting yourself, reset, repeat. This is called non-reactive mode, and it makes you look robotic from the outside. But internally, you've never been more alive, because now you are not reacting, you are choosing, and choice is power. Step 4. Disconnect action from emotion permanently. Here's the hardest truth. Your emotions aren't always wrong. They're just unnecessary. Once you start moving from structure, emotion becomes ornamental. It's optional, decorative. You train this by setting your routine and never asking how you feel about it again. You don't evaluate. You don't reassess. You commit. Then you execute. Forever. You train like this long enough, and eventually your brain stops asking for feedback. That's when you've disconnected the final wire. That's when you're truly dangerous. Step 5. Become the ghost in the system. At this point, you've evolved past effort. You no longer feel resistance because you don't expect ease. You no longer hope because you don't need outcomes. You no longer panic because you don't respond. You calculate. You're now what the world fears, a silent, high-functioning operator. You don't need permission. You don't need sensation. You don't even need motivation. You move in silence, execute in precision, and disappear before they even knew what hit them. You are not chasing balance. You're not chasing fulfillment. You are the system, cold, functional, untouchable. Most people collapse when they feel too much. You've learned how to function when you feel nothing at all. If something clicked in you, if even one voice went silent while watching this, then you're not the same anymore and you don't get to go back. Now prove it. Comment below. I'm running the protocol. No explanation, no emoji, just signal to the ones who know. Like this video if you felt something shift, or if you finally stopped feeling and kept going anyway.